Thanks for being with us here on Live Now. We do want to continue on with that story that we're following, as we're now hearing that the White House is pushing back on that report of a possible Diddy pardon. And so right now we know that Diddy is currently behind bars, serving a 50-month prison sentence for violating the Mann Act. He served 13 months so far, and with credit, he could get out in around 2 years. But so let's go ahead and continue that conversation that we're having with legal analyst Neama Rahmani. Neama, we have you back. We should be able to hear you now on this side. But first of all, we've been following this case. You and I have had several discussions since the beginning when Diddy's house was first raided, the trial that was ensuing, and now he's officially been sentenced. But President Trump, according to TMZ, saying that he may consider commuting his sentence. What's your initial reaction to that, and how common are some of these commutations in high-profile cases?
Christina, I'm not at all surprised, and we have been talking about the Diddy case for a year and a half now. And even in the middle of his trial, when Rolling Stone reported it, that his team was angling for a presidential pardon, I said, this is part and parcel of the defense strategy here. Look, it's no surprise that President Trump is very liberal when it comes out to presidential pardons, right? All the January 6th defendants were pardoned, as a blanket pardon. And of course, George Santos, just this Friday afternoon, his sentence was commuted. So the president is not shy when it comes to issuing pardons. And of course, Diddy has significant resources, not just on the lawyer side, but on the lobbying and public relations side. So this is something that has been in the works since the beginning. And when TMZ reported yesterday evening that the pardon was likely to happen this week, I said, look, this is just really the fruition of Diddy and his team's work. Now, something happened in the past 24 hours because, look, TMZ, a lot of folks are critical, but when it comes to entertainment and when it comes to Los Angeles, they really are in the know, believe it or not. They're not just ones to report things that aren't true. So I do believe at some point yesterday, it did appear that Diddy was likely going to have his sentence commuted. And maybe that report coming out from TMZ may have changed the president's mind or the pardon attorney or someone in the White House, and things went sideways. So certainly not what the defense team wants, but I do believe that it was on its way before the White House said no.
And so, Neama, when it comes to commuting a sentence, can you explain for those at home who are maybe not aware of what that means? What does that look like in the days and weeks after that sentence is commuted? And overall, your record, is it cleared of any of those charges that you've been convicted of?
Christina, if it's a pardon, it's like the conviction never happened. It's completely wiped clean. Commuting your sentence is a little bit different. The felony conviction, usually it's a felony under federal law, stays on your record, but you're a free man or a woman. So, for instance, we saw George Santos have his sentence commuted on Friday. He was on Fox News, giving interviews over the weekend, on Saturday. So that's how quickly someone's life can turn around. He was doing cameo appearances over the weekend as well. So if Diddy is pardoned, which is less likely, or has his sentence commuted, he's going to be a free man probably that same day or the following day. Now, if he still has the felony conviction, he's going to have to deal with not having a weapon, not being able to vote, everything that comes along with being a convicted felon. But most importantly, for Diddy and his family, he's going to be out of federal prison.
And so, of course, we know that this isn't the only path that Diddy's legal team is currently working behind the scenes. In fact, it was just on Monday that Combs' legal team also filed a notice of appeal in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. And so, Neama, when it comes to some of the appeal process that Diddy is going to be looking at there, what's the defense's strategy in filing an appeal? Is there usually a typical route that this heads in that direction?
So the appeal was going to be expected. And again, when the defense took such an aggressive stance at sentencing, I thought to myself, they either feel very good about their chances of a successful appeal, or they think that they're likely going to get Diddy a pardon or a sentence commuted. Because oftentimes at sentencing, you're going to want to come in, fall on the sword, accept responsibility. And the defense was pretty aggressive when they were going after some of the victims at sentencing, or at least I thought they were. And that's why Diddy was really slammed and got that 4 to 5 years that I predicted. So when it comes to an appeal, this is how it works. The defense in a federal case has 14 days from the entry of the judgment of conviction and the sentence to file their notice of appeal. But it's just a notice. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to file their appeal brief. So then what will happen is the Court of Appeal, and in this case, the Second Circuit Court of Appeal, will do a couple things. They will order the official transcripts of the case. So the court reporters have to prepare certified transcripts for the appellate courts to review on appeal. And then they will set a briefing schedule. The parties will file written briefs. First, the defense will file an opening brief. The government will file an opposition. The defense will have a chance to file a reply. And sometimes the Court of Appeal will allow for a surreply, which is a reply by the government. Expect the following legal arguments in Diddy's appeal. They're going to attack both the conviction and they're going to attack the sentence. Here's how they're going to attack the conviction. We know that he was acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering, so that's not an issue. When it comes to prostitution, Christina, the defense is going to make two primary arguments. The first is going to be because Diddy didn't actually participate in the sex acts. Cassie, Jane, and others did. He cannot be found guilty of prostitution. Now, the government's going to argue, well, no, he was facilitating the prostitution, and that's enough, even if he didn't participate in the sex acts. The second argument the defense is going to make is that it really wasn't prostitution at all. Because Diddy was videotaping the sex acts, he was making homemade pornography, and that is protected by the First Amendment. So that's how they're going to attack the prostitution convictions, the Mann Act convictions themselves. Then they're going to attack the sentence as being excessive. And the primary argument they're going to make is that the court improperly considered acquitted conduct. Now, this is an area of the law that it has been shifting over time. Historically, judges could consider acquitted conduct. And there was a change made to the federal sentencing guidelines last year that really said judges should not consider it. So this is the type of issue that may go not just to the Court of Appeal, Christina, but may make its way all the way to the Supreme Court. There's even some of the conservative justices on the Supreme Court that have taken issue with judges considering acquitted conduct at sentencing.
I'm glad you brought that up because the Supreme Court, of course, we follow that closely here on Live Now from Fox. The highest court in the land has been making a lot of landmark decisions, overturning what we've seen as sort of precedent in the last few years. And so, Neama, as we're continuing to focus on what could happen there and come down the pipeline, really lastly here, I want to talk about the impact that Diddy has, the celebrity that he has. We've talked about that aspect of the case. Do you think that that could have any influence on this appeals process as well, or even on the possible, even though the White House is pushing back on it, this commutation of the sentence?
Absolutely. And say what you want to say about Donald Trump. He has pardoned a lot of high-profile rappers, right? Folks like Lil Wayne, Harry O. I mean, he is a celebrity in and of itself. So to the extent that you have a celebrity defendant, someone who's as well connected as Diddy is, someone with the financial and other resources that he has, there's no question that the president is going to be more likely to commute his sentence, not because other folks aren't deserving. It's just this is the type of defendant that can get the president's attention. So everything really seems to be lining up, because the reason I predicted that Diddy would be pardoned or have his sentence commuted is he was only convicted of prostitution. He was convicted by Maureen Comey, who of course is James Comey's daughter. We know how the president feels about the former FBI director. He, of course, is now being prosecuted by Lindsay Halligan, the new U.S. attorney in Virginia. The president hasn't seemed to like the Southern District of New York, where Diddy was prosecuted. So everything seemed to line up for a potential presidential pardon and Diddy's sentence being commuted. But of course, we know that it all depends on the president, and it's solely his decision. There's nothing anyone can do to prevent it from happening, and there's nothing anyone can do to make it happen, as we saw when Joe Biden was president and he pardoned his son, Hunter Biden. This is truly something that's solely within the discretion of the president of the United States.
It'll be something certainly to watch here on Live Now from Fox. Again, legal analyst Neama Rahmani being with us here today to break down this latest news. Neama, if anything changes, we're going to call you, we're going to reach out, and we'll talk about it then as well. So we appreciate you for joining us here this evening on Live Now from Fox.
Of course, Christina, you know I'm on speed dial. Call me as soon as there's news. I'll be here talking about it.